A sealed envelope crossed deserts and borders, traveling silently through lands riddled with tension, until it reached a prison in Abuja. What lay inside wasn't a threat, but a sentence powerful enough to stir a continent. As President Bola Tinubu laughed during a national broadcast, poking fun at his critics and throwing shade at rivals. Far away in Burkina Faso, Ibrahim Traore stood at the African Union, his voice thunderous. "Kanu is the voice of Africa," he declared, not just a statement, but a spark in that instant. It wasn't merely a political endorsement. It felt like a signal of awakening, a challenge to the silence long forced upon the region. And the question that quickly echoed across African soil wasn't just about leadership, it was deeper. When truth itself becomes more dangerous than warfare, who dares to keep speaking? Eagle Square in Abuja was packed, the heat sweltering, flags waving with pride. Democracy Day celebrations were in full swing. Military bands played and people clapped as Tinubu took the stage, smiling confidently. It wasn't just a speech, it was a performance of dominance. He called Peter Obi a man chasing ghosts, prompting laughter. Then came the chilling remark that changed the tone. As for Nnamdi Kanu, he will rot where he belongs. Applause erupted, but not everyone watching felt joy. Across Africa, screens flickered in homes, cafes, barracks. A student in Nairobi clenched her fists. A soldier in Somalia turned off the broadcast in silence. In Ouagadougou, President Traoré watched, eyes narrowed, not a word spoken, but a storm brewing inside. It wasn't about Kanu alone anymore. It became about Africa's soul, whether it would continue to be ruled by fear or dare to embrace bold truth. While Abuja danced in celebration, something else was set in motion, something quiet, determined, and unstoppable. In the stillness of the night in Ouagadougou, under a dim light, Traoré sat with pen in hand, writing carefully. The message was brief, but each word struck like thunder. When finished, he folded it, sealed it with authority, and passed it to a trusted courier, a young Malian who moved like a shadow, unmarked, unnoticed. The man traveled across sand and stone, avoiding patrols, drinking little, sleeping under stars. No fanfare, just resolve. By the time he entered Abuja, the skies were red with dusk. He passed the letter discreetly to a guard at Huge prison, someone who still believed in a united, just Africa. Inside his cold cell, Nnamdi Kanu opened the envelope. Just one sentence: "You are not forgotten." His fingers trembled. No court had heard him in months. He hadn't seen sunlight, hadn't tasted hope. But this note, it broke through the steel and silence like light cracks through storm clouds. For the first time in ages, he smiled. His cellmate, a young protester from Enugu, noticed. "What's that?" he asked. Kanu didn't reply at first. He pressed the paper to his heart, then whispered, "Africa hears me now." The boy tilted his head. "Who hears you?" Kanu's eyes lit with quiet fire. "The only leader who remembers what freedom feels like." Guards laughed outside. Radios played jingles about prosperity. But in that moment, something sacred was reborn. It wasn't loud. It didn't scream. But it was growing, breathing. A revolution rising in the dark. Meanwhile, behind the polished doors of Aso Rock, unease was spreading. In the presidential situation room, Tinubu sat grim-faced while a classified report lay on the table. The message had been intercepted. Traoré had sent a letter not to diplomats or generals, but directly to Kanu. Whispers were growing louder. National Security Advisor Nuhu Ribadu spoke with urgency. If Traoré speaks, the Sal listens. He's become more than a man, he's a movement. And Kanu, he's the match. Tinubu's face hardened. Then we snuff out the fire. Orders followed: silence the media, monitor Burkina Faso's networks, jam anything if necessary. But even as officials scrambled, they knew something profound had been unleashed. This wasn't about information, it was about belief. And belief, once awakened, becomes a force no satellite or signal jammer can extinguish. A single photo broke the internet. A blurry shot of Kanu holding the letter surfaced on a grassroots activist page. The words were visible. "You are not forgotten." No names, no logos, just raw emotion. It spread like wildfire. From Lagos to Accra, Nairobi to Bamako, hashtags surged. Hashtag Voice of Africa. Hashtag TRAOREKANU 20-5. Hashtag Freedomisno. Protests erupted. Students painted murals. Nigerian embassies faced rallies. Tinubu's media team responded with desperation pushing success. Stories paying influencers, distracting timelines. But it was too late. Even celebrities began reposting. A Nollywood actress whispered tearfully, "We forgot him." But Traoré hadn't. Tinubu, watching the hashtags trend, clenched his fists. "We let one voice rise. Now there are thousands." But beyond the digital war, a real one was brewing, a war of hearts, of memory, of Africa's future. In Kaduna, retired General Musa Danjuma broke ranks. In a tense interview, he said plainly, "I can no longer be silent." Traoré understands Africa in ways Abuja never will. The clip exploded online. Soldiers, civil servants, even market women shared it. The unthinkable had happened. Doubt had entered the barracks. Inside a so rock. Tinubu seethed. He was my ally. But deep down, he knew the ground was shifting. When the generals waver, the armies soon follow. That night, Danjuma published a post. Traoré speaks like Sankara, not perfect, but he listens, and Africa needs that now. It ended with 3 words: Africa deserves better. Across the continent, people sat straighter, hearts beat faster. The silence had cracked. Then the screens went black in Burkina Faso. No ads, no sound, just silence. And then, suddenly Traoré appeared. Alone, steady, a map of Africa behind him. No music, no title, just truth. To every African watching, Kanu is not a threat. He is not a criminal. He is not a prisoner. He is a prophet. He said, "They caged him because he spoke for you." His voice echoed through cities, villages, radios, smartphones. Parents hushed children. Students cheered. A journalist in Lagos wept. And in Abuja, chaos. Tinubu's team scrambled to cut the signal. But the message was already alive, rebroadcasted, reshared, immortal. This is about more than one man, Traoré ended. It's about who we want to become, a continent ruled by fear or led by truth. Then, black screen. But the silence wasn't empty anymore, it was sacred. Africa was no longer asleep. Tinubu's circle shrank. Loyalty was cracking. Junior officers whispered Kanu's name during drills. Influencers posted Traoré's speech in secret. Panic set in. Transfer the loyalists. Silence the rest, Tinubu ordered. But it was no longer a matter of loyalty, it was momentum. In a secret hotel, foreign diplomats met in hushed tones. What if this spreads? Some asked. Offers were made: money, tools, suppression, but none could contain the wildfire. Then came the night of the operation. In the dark halls of huge prison, rain tapped metal roofs. Guards moved casually. At midnight, 2 vehicles arrived. Their occupants carried forged documents, impeccable, indistinguishable from official clearance. Kanu, dressed plainly, was escorted out. No guns, no sirens, just rain and resolve. By dawn, his cell was empty. Tinubu still slept. But across mosques, markets, and military camps, the whispers began. He's gone. At sunrise, Traoré's plane landed in Addis Ababa, and beside him, for the first time in a long while, Nnamdi Kanu stepped onto free soil. The African Union Hall was packed. Flags hung tall. Leaders waited. Then Traoré took the stage. Kanu beside him, not in chains, but in a simple white tunic. Heads turned. History held its breath. We are not here as rulers, but as children of a continent long silenced. Traoré began. Kanu was jailed not for crime, but for courage. Today we say Africa will not imprison its future. Thunderous applause shook the chamber. In Lagos, crowds cheered. In Nairobi, buses halted as passengers tuned in. In Bobo Dioulasso, students raised fists under murals of broken chains. And in the dark halls of Aso Rock, Tinubu watched alone, eyes hollow, surrounded by silence. Outside, the world changed.